Hello, hello, hello. Alright, so this is my analysis, right? For GU, right? So as we can see, we have our key zones. We have our key zones, right? Marked up right here, right here. Based off the monthly, obviously we're still bullish, right? Higher low, higher high, higher low. And now we're kind of at this support level here. Slightly making some slight lower highs. Another potential lower high around this area potential, but it's a bit far of a stretch to kind of predict that. But with that being said, so that's on the monthly, right? Currently, though, on weekly, right, I'm gonna say we have this lower high and lower low. So we're currently making lower highs and lower lows. So I would say that on the weekly time frame, I'm looking at this a bit more bearish, right? A bit more bearish. So now at this point, I would think that we could have a potential retracement anywhere between these levels. This is that zone that we had based off the monthly zone that it could potentially retrace to right here. Or like I said, it's already kind of at like a weekly key zone, not key zone, but at the end of the day, this was a previous higher low point, right? Support now turned into resistance, so potentially somewhere here. That's what kind of where we're at right now. So it could make a potential lower high point there. Um, and that's kind of what I'd be looking at here. I put down we would need like some type of lower high, right, to try to make a bullish engulfing and flip this back bullish based off this time frame. So this is what I would kind of look for. Because we're making lower highs, lower lows, I would want to see some type of lower high being broken, right, to kind of flip this and kind of continue that main analysis based off the monthly here. Or, like I said, we can wait for that break. We could also have a potential higher low point here. Well, not potential. It would be a higher low point getting in here for that break to potentially continue the bullish trend, right? Something like that. So now with that being said, but again, that's a pretty far prediction. And so yeah, at this point in time, this is that lower high, this is that lower low, right? So I'm looking for some type of lower high. Like I said, we're at a potential key level here, support and resistance, or maybe just a deeper retracement based off of here, right? So with that being said, we'll go down to daily. Daily, at this point in time, it's also bearish, right? Making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Um, Still making that level there. We're still overall bearish at the end of the day, and because we're still bearish, it's kind of hard for me to look at this kind of bullish. But with that being said, like for example, like all right, so I'm gonna stick to bearish. Right? I'm gonna stick to this being bearish. I'm gonna stick to this potentially making some type of lower high point right around here. Which, if it does make a lower high point, this would be a 23.6 based off this point A to point B. I don't have this marked up, but if I did, it would be 23.6 retracement. That would be that level there, right? If we did, right? But I think at this point in time, it's hard, bro. So at this point in time, we'd be looking for some type of lower high point at this point. So because again, we failed to kind of make a higher high. With that being said, though, we're still a bit bullish here. But the reason why I'm going to be aiming for bearish at this point in time still is especially because at this point in time we made a lower high, lower low. So based off the H4 time frame, we started making lower highs, lower lows, which is kind of all we really needed for us to now start to make some type of lower high point and then push down, right? But with that being said, that's not the main overall lower high point. What I mean by that is we technically haven't broken the main higher low point. So this is the main trend based off the H4 time frame, right? This higher low point here, higher high, then we made a higher low, lower high, and now we kind of broke this higher low point. So this is what I mean. This can be a potential lower high, all this stuff here, but we still haven't really broken the main higher low point to really transition this. This is why it's kind of hard for me based off the H4 to kind of go bearish, although we're slightly being bearish. Daily hasn't really, like, daily is also bearish, but at the end of the day, it's like we still, I would want to see a bit more, right? I would want to see a bit more based off this. I would have loved if we would have kind of engulfed this candle here and then made a lower high point, but the fact that we didn't is kind of making me be a bit more on edge. But at the end of the day, I need to find a position, right? I need to find a bias. I need to understand where this is kind of. Again, I can't be in and out. I can't be bullish and then bearish, and then at that point we won't really know. So at this point in time, right now, I'm gonna say bullish. I'm gonna say bullish because, like I said, this hasn't engulfed anything, right? This is just a bunch of dojis here. So I think we can still get a nice big push, maybe a deeper retracement here. I would have a soft like TP, maybe somewhere at this zone, right? Because we can still make a lower high point here at the end of the day, especially since this is kind of early 4 o'clock, 4 p.m., right? So it's like we still have a long ways to go before even London session even opens. So I could see this potentially being very, very choppy. And then we make lower high point there, right? But at this point in time, right here, right now, this candle here, I would say be bullish. If this was going to turn over, right, and I would aim for sells, I would want to see obviously it not break this level here and make some type of lower high point. But then on M30, M15, like all these lower time frames, we would also need some type of transition as well, right, to kind of go with that. Um, yeah, main thing that I've learned is just to be very, very executional, right? We got to be executional and patient. But again, so that's what I'm kind of going for as of right now. Is the fact that at this point in time, this wouldn't be a bad higher low point, right? At this point in time, but keep in mind that we technically still haven't broken this main higher low point down here, so it's still technically bullish, but we just kind of broke this lower high point, lower low. But again, this higher low point here isn't even seen on the daily. It's just kind of seeing like one big push, as you can see, wicks. So that's kind of where I'm at in a sense. Like it hasn't really been seen on that time frame. Um, so this is why personally this wouldn't be a bad higher low point here. Even here, right, we kind of have that key zone here. If I were to look to this kind of like my key zones, this would be a key zone here, and that's at that key zone, right? So the kind of engulfing push up. I can definitely see that coming. Again, I don't like to predict, right? I don't like to sit here and be like, okay, I have a lower high, lower low. Now let me sit on my hands, especially since we haven't even broken the main high low point here. Right? If we did break this high low point, it would be a bit different because then at that point too, we would have daily to correlate with that and have some type of engulfing, as you can see here. You know what I mean? But since we don't have that, it's really, really hard for us to be so bearish on that. So again, it's like unless it's really giving us signs that it's not gonna break here, like lower highs, exhaustion, all this stuff, that would be the only way. But then we would also need some type of transition, on the lower time frame. So at this point in time, like I just said, bullish. I'd be bullish. Still be more bullish and aim for up here. I think we can have a deeper retracement up here. We still are maintaining this level here. That's a key zone. But again, I feel like we kind of came up here, we respected that, and we kind of had a weak push here. So I feel like at that point in time, that's kind of a sign that, buyers are still in control at this point. Now, again, it's still London session. I mean, it's still not London session, right? We still have a long ways to go before then. So again, this can just be building up for that potential bearish move. Or again, it can just kind of slowly kind of just creep up, and then once London kind of hits, it can just kind of take off up here. So that's my analysis. That's kind of what I'm gonna go for based off H4. I'm gonna just wait, be patient. But at this point in time, this wouldn't be a bad buy opportunity here. Kind of take this to kind of up here. This is H4, so the pip isn't that bad. Say we move some type of entry here. Up here, this is about 609 pips. I mean, you would kind of settle with exhaustion, all that stuff if it does exhaust. About a 500 pip move all the way up here. So it's not bad. This is what I would kind of be aiming for at this point in time.